It's so interesting creating because you kind of have to let go of your ego in so many ways. And I don't think people realize that a lot of music making is like showing up to a stranger's house and telling them your deepest, darkest secrets, like in the first hour of meeting. Like, it's a very unique thing to do. What's up, y'all? I'm Erica Joe. Come eat lunch with me. Grab a bowl, grab a plate, and let's get to know each other. I've been in LA now for coming on 8 years, which is a long time because I think about it. I moved here when I was 18 for college. I went to UCLA. I do remember when I first came here, and I had been in LA before because my dad is from Pasadena, but I hadn't really been on like the west side of town as much. And I remember being like, this whole city feels like a suburb because San Francisco, I just learned, is like the second densest city in America, second to New York. So it feels very city-like. All the houses are next to each other. You're taking the bus and the train everywhere. I was, taking the bus by myself since I was 12. So here, I was like, this is a city. Like, it doesn't really make sense to me. But now, I love it because it feels like there's literally endless things to do. You can never do everything here. There's always new things to explore. So many people in every niche and every passion. And it kind of feels like a treasure hunt in a way of like people telling you about this place where it's like you wouldn't know it from the outside, but then on the inside, it's this crazy, big, cool thing. So that excites me about LA is it feels like there's always something new to discover. And it does feel like a treasure hunt. It was nice that I went to school here first, and I didn't go to school for music. Originally, I was on the pre-med path. I was gonna go to medical school. And so I feel like I had a very normal introduction to LA versus the entertainment vibe. So I feel like I was able to explore a lot more neighborhoods and just meet a lot of different people here versus just entertainment people. And I think LA has a reputation of people being fake in entertainment and stuff. Obviously, that stereotype exists because that can be true. But I feel like I meet the most creative people, the most open people. People are moving here to pursue their dreams. And so everyone's down to make new friends and meet new people. So yeah, I just feel like maybe it comes from influencer culture more than like a musician culture or like an artist culture. No shade to influencers. I feel like it's tough. As someone who's trying to make content, that is a grind. But maybe there's just more like spiritual vibe in the music circle when it comes to making friends. I feel like I've been fortunate to meet a lot of cool people and not as many shady people or fake people. It's so interesting creating because you kind of have to let go of your ego in so many ways. And I don't think people realize that a lot of music making is like showing up to a stranger's house and telling them your deepest, darkest secrets, like in the first hour of meeting. Like, it's a very unique thing to do. So I feel like when people talk about if you vibe with someone or not, and some collaborators just clicking more than others, it's like making a friend. It's like there's just something energetic about you vibe with one person more than another. Some people make you feel safe. Some people make you feel like tense, or maybe you have to put up the front in some ways. And then I feel like my best stuff comes out of feeling free and non-judgmental. So I feel like there is a spiritual component there when it comes to making music, because you do have to kind of tap into something bigger than you. I feel like that's very cliche, but I feel like if you think too hard about it and you box yourself into who you think you are, then you don't make cool shit. Because I feel like the stuff I make that's the coolest to me is the stuff that scares me a little bit. And that's definitely true of the songs I've been working on recently, where it's a very different sonic direction from what I've done before. Very cool. And I've kind of just been vibing on what feels cool versus what I think would be something, you know? Yeah, I think I've been able to create without thinking of the release or anything, which is how it was for my first album too, because I was making music the year after I graduated college before I ever released anything. And so I was able to just create without any input or feedback or critique of my music or my artistry. And so that felt really free. And I feel like I had a hard time finding that freedom again once I started putting stuff out. And I feel like I've been able to tap into that more and kind of deconstruct certain ways that I've maybe presented myself or, you know, shown up in my music. But I also stand on everything I've released and done. I'm so proud of it. And I think it's all really cool. And I think the whole point is to keep evolving. And you should kind of cringe in a way at your old stuff because it means you're in a new era. But it doesn't mean that your old stuff is cringeworthy to anyone else. And I still bought my music. I love my music. So I always say, you have to like your own shit, or why should anyone else? And I feel like I've been trying to hold that close when it, you know, comes to, I've been doing this for longer. Who knows how long it's going to take until, you know, I'm able to profit more off my music. And so, and like connect with more people and reach more people. So it has to just come from a place of enjoying it, because otherwise, what's the point? And the journey is the whole point, I feel like. Luckily, I did write most of my last album before releasing anything. So I feel like I did have that freedom. And then I feel like I made a lot of confident music, which I am a very confident person. Like, that is a true aspect of like one facet of my identity. But I think, you know, I've never done this before. I was kind of leaning into this like pop girl vibe. And I feel like pop is very like perfect in a way. And so I feel like when you're only creating confident stuff, it's kind of shielded in a way. It's not super vulnerable. And if you listen to my music, like, I have vulnerable music out because I wrote all that before it was shared. So I think once I started releasing it, it was hard for me to tap into that vulnerability again. And actually, one of my upcoming songs, I don't know if it'll already be out at this time, but the next song I'm going to release is called Sunshine Girl. And it's all about that concept of, I'm very fortunate that I am a very sunshiny person. I feel like that's just been my brain, how my brain is wired, and it's not good or bad. It's just how I am. But in some ways, I feel like when you're someone who's happy all the time, you don't feel like you have permission to show up as anything but the happy person. When it's like, we all experience anxiety, we all experience stress, we all experience, you know, all the colors of the rainbow of emotion. And so I felt like I was even limiting myself in my writing and in my life emotionally, because I was just like, wait, but I'm like the confident person. So then I can't write music that's not confident if I'm selling this like confident image. And I had to deconstruct that a bit. And that's what this song is about. Sunshine Girl it's about kind of the exterior sunshine happiness, which isn't always a facade, but then allowing anxiety to like manifest at the same time. And it's kind of dramatizing that specific emotion. And And also the feeling of stopping yourself from feeling anxiety by like scrolling your life away and whatever, like doing something that distracts from anything but like la di da di da. So it is another song that is scary to me, both in terms of how I sing, like I'm speaking in parts of it, and also the lyrics. I feel like are like, I think even the first lyric you'll be like, oh, what? What did she say? And so that excites me. Yeah. It's like scary and exciting. And I feel like usually by the time I've released a song, I've heard it so many times by myself that it just becomes its own piece of art. And I'm almost detached from the lyrics in a way. And then someone will come up to me after and be like, you really felt this way? And I was like, oh yeah, I did say that, huh? Yeah. But I think luckily when I'm writing lyrics, I do feel like, I know I was just talking about struggling with being so open, but I do feel like I like to write the most emotional thing I can, or the most kind of vulnerable thing I can in that moment. And so that, because I like songs like that. So yeah.
Ballads,
Gotta love a ballad. I will say this upcoming project it's a bop heavy project, which is so fun to me. I think in my last project, I was like half bops, half singer-songwriter ballad vibe. And I definitely will release more of those in the future, but this project it still dives into interesting topics, but it's not, and like deep emotional topics, but it's, a lot of them have a bop to it too, which is fun. I think something that I honestly am still struggling with and I'm working through is like being more authentic online. I feel like I'm a very authentic person in person. And I feel like, this is the story of everyone. It doesn't matter if you're, trying to pursue a career online or not. But I feel like you have this space where you're able to portray yourself in one way. And I'm not the only one. I think we're all sick and tired of seeing perfection online, especially now it's like you don't even know what's real all the time anymore. And so I want to just see realer shit, and I want to show more of that too. And I think what I do show online is real. Like, it's, if I'm posting a video of me making music, like I am genuinely that into it, that happy and stuff. But I don't think I show the struggles behind it as much. And I think I want to do more talking and stuff about that's just a little more less guarded, a little less just like hot pop girl that has like a distance from you, and more just like being real. But it's a vulnerable thing to do, and I am still working on it. I'm not on the other side of that at all. I do feel like hot girl vibe is a mentality. Like, I don't even think it's about the way you look. I feel like it's a way that you carry yourself. And I do feel like I do carry myself with a certain confidence, whether I'm dressed up or not. But it definitely can box you in to one definition of hot girl when you lean too far into like the baddie vibe, which like I feel like I was doing that before I was even making music. I'm just like, you're in college and you're like getting ready to go to a party. Like, it's just something that's baked into many women of just like how to present yourself in a certain way, and also feeling comfortable in your body and embracing that. I don't know if you, I don't know where you would have found this in your research, but my internship in college and my first job outside of college was the producer of a sex podcast. So it was all about, it's called Sex with Emily. It was all about, the mission was she wanted, sorry, there's like a school right here. She wanted to make talking about sex, like talking about the weather. It's like, it's something we all do. It's something that's one of the most normal unifying things amongst all humans. So I feel like I was so fortunate to grow up in a very formative years. Like I worked there between when I was 20 and 24 years old, of just like knowing how to advocate for myself, feeling comfortable in my body, feeling, you know, comfortable communicating my needs, knowing my needs. Like I just grew up and talking about sex all the time. So to me, it wasn't even like, I'm gonna be sexy for the music video. It was just like, I feel sexy all the time. And this is something that I'm talking about on a daily basis, of like how to tap into your feminine energy, how to like not feel shame for exist, you know, feeling sensual and confident and like pleasure. So that was definitely my era when I was making my last project. And I do feel like, you know, I always say when I'm out and about, like I'm dressing for the girls and the gays. Like I'm dressing for myself and I'm dressing to like vibe with my friends. It has nothing to do with trying to get anyone's attention. But at the same time, one of the lines in Sunshine Girl is, oh, it's a hot girl still gets burned if she's not in the driver's seat. Of just like, even if I'm dressing for myself, where am I getting those ideas of how to dress myself? And is it for the feminine gaze or the male gaze?
At your stage of maturity as a human being, you come up across the limits of what just being beautiful, how that fulfills you.
Right. I feel like I'm talking about ego in social media and like appearance in one facet of ego. But I do feel like I'm fortunate where a lot of my self-worth does not come from that. And I think maybe I just talked about that one thing today, but I do feel fortunate that luckily that has never been tied to my self-worth. That has never been something that I like grew up as a kid experiencing or being told. So I do feel like I get my self-worth from like my intellect, how I treat my friends, how I am creative. So in that way, that doesn't feel like something to move past, because that feels like things I'm proud of versus that one aspect of ego in terms of the superficial appearance. I'm deconstructing that currently, but luckily that is not, like, if you know me, that is not where I get any self-worth from. So luckily I didn't have to deconstruct that in real life. I mostly meant how I present myself on social media and in my artistry. But in terms of real life, that's not on my list of concerns as much. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad
That's
you clarified
good to clarify.
that.
Yeah. I'm more thinking of like, you know, how I present myself online. I feel like I could be more vulnerable, and that is scary to me.
That's a dangerous thing too.
Exactly. Like there's pros and cons. You don't want to share everything online. I feel like privacy is so important. So I don't want to share everything online, and I don't think every moment needs to be shared. Like if I only post stuff that I feel like is related to my music, but I do all sorts of things all the time that are unrelated. So I basically mostly meant ego in terms of how I present myself as an artist, which right now mostly manifests itself on social media and like album art and music videos. I feel like I go to a spiritual place when I feel like I really need to get something out, and used to use it more as a tool to just write my feelings immediately, versus now I feel like I digest a lot more, or I'll like write a concept down in my notes, and then when I go into a session, then I'll pull up these notes and start writing there. But I think I used to write a lot more songs on piano and guitar, so that's very immediate. And I do want to tap back into that again, because now I've been more in like a production era where it's like I'm producing first and then writing on top of it, or waiting till I'm in a session with someone else and then writing on top of that. So I feel like when I'm in the moment, it feels like journaling. It feels like you're kind of understanding your emotions as they're coming out of your mouth of like, oh yeah, I guess I did feel that way. I definitely felt that with my last album because in many ways it's a breakup album, and that's like the quintessential emotion bomb of like, what is happening? So many things happening at the same time. I'm trying to understand it all. So yeah, I would say historically music has definitely come from a more spiritual place like that. Like even in college, I would come home from like a day or like a night, and if my roommates were out, I would pick up the guitar and just write a song a day that never saw the light of day, but just were really cool and fulfilling in that way. Versus I feel like now I'm like, if I'm writing a song, it's like I want it to be as good as it can be, versus using it as a therapeutic thing. But then once I'm in it, it's like it does feel therapeutic. But I think now, just by nature of not gravitating toward the piano and guitar as much, I've had a little more time to sit with it by the time I'm writing about it. It's like a form of therapy. Like, I journal all the time too. I feel like that's another form of just allowing yourself the time and space to have these thoughts versus it just being a cloud of stuff. And I think songwriting is a really interesting way to dive into one specific emotion or moment or something like that.
Before you became professional, what was your relationship with music and creativity?
Ooh.
Just as a person?
That's a good question. What was my relation to music before doing it professionally? Music was always in my household growing up. My dad is super musical. He plays piano, guitar, bass, drums, harmonica, and we always had vinyls playing growing up. I think my dad taught me how to, play a vinyl when I was like 3. And I wrote my first song when I was 7. And it was really funny because it was called Rock Music is Alive. I posted a snippet of it on my Instagram. But it was so funny because half the verses were about like alcohol and drinking. And I was literally 7 years old. And I think it was because I grew up on classic rock. Like my favorite bands growing up were The Who and Blondie. So I was just like, and shit, I'm talking about Rock Music is Alive. Like, we're going to be drinking in this, even though I'd never taken a sip in my life at that point. I literally had I think one lyric is, we were driving on the freeway, I was drinking wine, and then we started swinging from a vine. It's just it means, it's a total 7-year-old's, rhyming scheme, but somehow I rhymed vodka with America at 7 years old.
But wine and vine go together because the grapes. Because the grapes.
There we go.
Right?
I see it. I already knew that at 7, obviously.
Yeah.
And then I didn't write for a while. And then I think at 17 again, but that song always stuck with me for some reason. Then at 16, I was like, I want to try writing a song again. And I wrote another song. I think it was called Big Brown Eyes or something. And then I just started writing more and more. And then I made this Instagram account that was kind of secret. And I just started posting these snippets of minute songs I wrote. And I was just writing all the time. And now looking back, because it's funny, if you ask, I feel like people always ask musicians, what's the first song you ever wrote? Can you sing it for me? And it's we all know, you can remember every song you've ever written pretty much. You probably need a refresher. But sometimes I go back through my notes and I play old songs to kind of tap into that, just doing it for fun again. And I'm I was singing some pretty emotional stuff, just writing it in the piano that's in the center of my house. We didn't have a big house, so everyone was hearing every lyric I was saying about shit I had never even experienced yet, And I do think that's really cute and cool that I was able to feel so comfortable and free to write emotional stuff with my whole family and my whole house to hear all the time. And my parents have been my biggest supporters. I think, as I mentioned at the beginning, I went into school for medicine. So I think, you know, when you expect your daughter to be a doctor and then all of a sudden she's like, I want to be a musician. It's like, wait, what? Like, I think it took some recalibration at first, but now they're literally my biggest fans. Like, they stream all my music. My mom sends out every song to her whole contact library, is like posting everything. My dad like wears my merch out to every single, you know, party they go to. And I feel very fortunate. Obviously they want me to succeed and stuff, but my dad told me something like a year or two after I started writing or doing it for real. And he was like, I won't judge you by how successful you are. I'll judge you by how much cool shit you make. And I'm like, that's such a blessing to have from your parent, to just not tie your worth to external outcomes and also be supportive of me doing this from, you know, he's a music lover himself. And I think, you know, my brother's also a musician. He went to music school. My brother's always been super creative. Like, my mom always was like, oh yeah, he's never gonna work a desk job. Like, that's just not his vibe. Versus for me, it's like, I could sit down at a desk and grind. Like, I was gonna go to medical school, or, you know, that was the path. And my, you know, the message I heard growing up was like, people who pursue art and pursue music are people who couldn't imagine doing anything else, because it's such a unstable, unpredictable thing. So it's like, you only would do it if you can't imagine doing anything else, versus I could imagine doing something else. And I had to kind of unlearn that of like, why can't I choose the not safe route and do it because I love it? And I knew, I credit COVID, as horrible as it was, for like kind of putting a pause on the hamster wheel of the whole medical track. And just allowing me to reflect of like, what kind of lifestyle do I really want to have? And I knew if I didn't pursue it, music, I knew I would regret it on my deathbed. I just knew it. Like, I was the type of kid who would sing in the shower, who would like do fake performances in my living room. Like, I just felt that that was something in my bones that I had. And I knew that if I didn't at least try to share that with the world in some way, I would have regrets. And so I was like, there's my answer. I need to at least try. And now I feel like I'm in the world of trying it. It's just unlocked a whole new set of values and definitions of success and, you know, priorities and stuff like that. So I don't see myself going back to the medical field. But another thing that kind of allowed me to go for it was, I feel like being in LA, you learn about so many jobs that you didn't even know existed. Of like, this one person's job is to do this very specific thing for this very specific thing. So I was like, I feel like I'll be okay no matter what, because I can always find that very specific thing that fills my soul and makes me fulfilled and happy.
So let me ask you kind of a silly question. But what do you remember more with more force of emotion? Do you remember your first song or your first kiss?
Well, I definitely think about my first song more often than I think about my first kiss. I don't think about my first kiss that often, but...
What does that say about music?
Exactly. It's in your soul. It's in your bones, I feel like. And I love seeing videos of like, you know, older people who maybe have Alzheimer's or dementia. And all of a sudden you play them a song and they can like instantly play it on the piano again, or instantly dance the dance that when they were younger. And that, I mean, what more scientific proof do you need of like that literally affecting your brain in a very specific, unique, distinct way? I love when artists write something that feels so specific to them and then it ends up resonating with so many people. So I actually think that music should serve yourself the most, because you can't control how it serves other people. I think maybe, you know, once you're bigger, you have other responsibilities, but I think in terms of the creation process, it has to serve you most of all. And I feel like ultimately that will serve other people. But if you try to create based on what you think other people will like or what you think will serve other people, then you're probably going to make something boring or safe.
How did you get called to producing, and how did you get started? And how does it make you feel?
I started making stuff on GarageBand when I was younger, like in high school. And I think I had the privilege of growing up in a very like tech savvy space. Like, I mean, I'm from San Francisco. My school growing up had like computer class, you know, and we were always creating stuff. So it's like I was making iMovies as a kid, you know, like. So to me, it was just another example of creating something on your computer with like the apps available to you, you know, and just GarageBand. And I do remember creating my first songs, and it was like, it did feel like it unlocked a whole other thing of like, this is so vulnerable, and now I'm playing it for my parents or my friends in a way that feels different from like playing something on the guitar. It's like, it almost feels like you're presenting something and you're like sitting there experiencing it at the same time as them. When I first released music, I did it under a different name. And that was when I wasn't even doing it to do it professionally. I was, you know, still in college. But I had been making music for fun for years. Like I remember even my high school boyfriend, I like made him a mixtape for his birthday, like of just a little USB with like, I think I had 3 originals and 2 covers. And that was just something that I was already doing for fun, but it was kind of like my deep secret of like me making music. And then when it was the summer after freshman year of college, and I made this song, and I was like, this is such a good song. Like I love listening to it all the time. Am I just gonna let this live and die on my computer? Like that's so lame. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna release it for friends and family, basically. And I so just released it under the name Erica T. It's out. You can listen to it. The first one I released was called Silver Screen. That was really fun, and it just felt like such a passion project. And I just got really into wanting to make my stuff sound good and sound like what I heard in my head and sound like other, you know, the quality of songs that I loved. I didn't like sit down and take a production course, but it was just like, I want to make my music sound, I want to have this effect. How do I do that? You like watch a YouTube video of how to do that specific thing. Or like, this sounds weird because of this. How do I make it not sound weird? Watch a music video or a video on that. So I feel like I learned how to produce by just constantly creating, and learning as I created by just constantly wanting to get better and better. And I produced half of my debut album by myself because speaking of being a female producer, I love collaborating with other people, but I knew that if there was even one other name on the credit, particularly if it was a man, which is more likely because 95% of producers are men, then everyone was just going to assume that they did all the bulk of the work and I maybe like edited my vocals or something, you know? Versus it's like, no, that trap beat, like I made that. And so I was very conscious about having my music be like, if you pull up the credits, it is Erica Joe on the only credits. So then no one could question what did I contribute or not contribute. Now I feel like I have that as kind of my proof or my evidence. So now I'm like, oh, I want to collaborate with other people all the time. I feel like I love working with people who are better than me because then you make better stuff and you learn from them. And it's just fun collaborating with people. So that was important to me, that I had those songs that just had my name on them. And I still feel like some people don't know that I produce. So I do need to push that more online of like BTS stuff of me producing. But it does feel very fun. It does feel like I tap into a very like cool side of myself that's just like I feel like my Bay Area face like comes out if I'm like listening to something I really like. So speaking of women producers, I've said from the jump when I'm talking with other female artists of like, at least learn how to produce a demo by yourself, so that at least you're not relying on a man to get your idea into a listenable form. You know, like if you're not interested in watching videos on like EQ and compression, don't, like, leave that to someone else. But like at least empower yourself to create without having to like book studio time, enter someone else's space, and, you know, kind of change the power dynamic. And also sometimes I'm just like, I can't articulate this, but if you just let me sit in that chair, like, I can do it. You know what I mean? I think I've gotten better at describing what I want when I'm working with other producers, which I think is another reason that everyone should learn how to produce. So you can be specific about what you want, instead of being like, can we make it feel more airy or like angelic? And it's like, what does that mean? Versus like, can we turn up the saturation, or like, can we add more reverb? You know, that's like a very specific thing that whoever is producing can just be like, oh yeah, done. Versus like, what are they trying to tell me? Like, and sometimes I do get in that artist mode too, of like, I just want it to sound more like it's floating. And it's like, well, I'm also in that artist chair as well. So, you know, it's fun to play both, I guess.
What should I be asking that I haven't asked?
Ooh.
What should I be asking Erica Jo?
I think, okay, one side of like the pop persona that I was kind of putting forth with my last album was like, you know, put together vibe that maybe comes off as high maintenance. And I feel like if you meet me, I'm like very low maintenance girl. Like one of my, I love travel. I feel like that's something I've been very privileged to do, and that's informed me a lot as a person. I feel like I exist between my trips. Like I feel like my life is spaced out in my travels, and I love solo traveling. And so a lot of that is like moving from hostel to hostel, and like, you know, you're getting ready, doing your routine in like a shared bathroom with a bunch of other people, and like finding a sense of home in a bunk bed, and like, you know, living very budget vibe. I'm a very frugal, practical person. And so that is something where I think maybe sometimes people are like, you drive what car? Or like, you drive, you know what I mean? Like I'm very chill, low maintenance. I love a walk on the beach. I love just chilling with my friends. Like I love cooking. My whole YouTube feed is like cooking and van life conversions. Like I would love to road trip and live out of a van one day. In fact, I realized, I was like, this is so genius. When I go on tour, I should just rent a van, and then I get to live out my van life fantasy, and I don't have to pay for a hotel room and a car. That's genius.
I think it's genius.
Goodbye. Thank you for watching this, tuning in, eating lunch with me. Maybe you were eating something at the same time. And I hope you like my new music. I feel like the song I've been talking about, Sunshine Girl, might be out or might be coming out. So Sunshine Girl by Erica Jo. If not, Swiss Miss by Erica Jo is my last song. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. I hope you learned a little about me, and let's do it again sometime.
Looked up and suddenly my angels gone. Everything I feel remains alone. Don't pray no bones as I stay alone.